All right, hi everyone. My name's Kaylee, and today we're going to be talking about prompts. So, a prompt is something that we as teachers use when we're teaching a new skill. We add it to our instructions in order to help the learner produce the correct response. We can add the prompt to the materials we use, like highlighting the correct answer. This is called a stimulus prompt, or we can add a prompt to instructions, like saying out the steps out loud for a learner. This is called a response prompt. For the purposes of this training, we won't be worried about the distinction between those two. I'm simply going to refer to the help provided to a learner in this video as a prompt. According to Wong et al.'s comprehensive review of evidence-based practices for children, youth, and young adults with autism spectrum disorder, prompting is an evidence-based antecedent strategy effective for individuals with autism from birth to 22 years of age, meaning there's published research in the current literature that shows that this prompting is effective for this age group and diagnosis, autism from birth to age 22. Right. So why are prompts so important? Why do we need prompts? Many of the learners that we teach are not able to perform very important behaviors independently. These behaviors might be adaptive routines like using the toilet or brushing their teeth, and prompts help us bridge the gap. We bridge the gap between what the learners can do and what they can't do. Our goal is always independence. That's our main goal. So our goal is independence, and being able to fade prompts is just as important as being able to implement them. But for the purpose of this training, we're not going to discuss the fading techniques quite yet. All right. Next, I'm going to give you some examples of the type of prompts, of the main types of prompts. First one is a visual prompt. A visual prompt, like it sounds, is something that's added for the learner to see in order to help them perform the skill. An example of this might be adding a colored dot, which you see here on the screen, for where a child is supposed to be seated on a mat for circle time. This helps them remember where to go each time, and the colored dot is a visual prompt. Next is going to be our verbal prompts. This could be instructions, either written or spoken to the learner. For example, when I drive somewhere new, I use Google Maps to tell me the instructions for how to get there. When Google Maps says, keep right on Broadway, it's an example of a verbal prompt. Gestural prompts include pointing or touching something in order to help the learner choose a correct answer or perform the correct response. For example, when asking a learner to point to their elbow, we might also point to their elbow in order to help them choose the right body part. All right, the model prompt. According to ASD's Toddler Initiative, a model prompt includes either performing the target skill or showing what to do. An example of a model prompt is watching a YouTube video about how to fix your sink. Another example might be modeling play skills for a younger learner with ASD, like you showing them a play kitchen and you model how to pour the tea into the cup. Look, do this, we're making tea. All right, and our last one is going to be the physical prompts. So physical prompts are ones that involve touching the learner directly. They're sometimes broken down into partial physical and full physical. A full physical, also called hand-over-hand prompting, like it sounds, this requires the teacher to take the learner's hands and perform the target behavior fully. For example, hand over hand, helping a child to write letters onto a page. A partial physical prompt might be a touch at the elbow to guide a learner towards the correct response. This might be useful when asking a learner to turn the page when you're listening to a book. You gently guide their arm towards the book, and that would be a partial physical prompt. All right. So the two most common ways of implementing strategic prompting are least to most and most to least. Most refers to the most intrusive form of helping, and the least is our goal, independence. I'm going to be drawing a visual here, placing the prompts on that hierarchy, just like we talked about, in most to least and least to most ranking. Remember that this is just a guideline and it's not a hard and fast rule. In some cases, the order of these prompts might need to change slightly to reflect the learner and their unique skills or the type of behavior that you're teaching. So at the top here, independence is always our goal, so that's going to be at the top. One step down from independence would be our visual prompts. A step below that is our verbal prompts. And then next, our gestural. Model. And our most intrusive, purple, physical prompts. Obviously, it would first be partial. And then even more intrusive is your full physical prompt. So, most to least, like it sounds, you start from the bottom up. So when you're teaching a behavior, you immediately start from the bottom and go up when you're using these prompts. That's most to least. Your least to most is you're starting with independence. So first you're asking the child to touch your elbow. And if they don't do it independently, we start going down this chain to help. And that is our least to most. All right. An example provided by Netzel and Woolery in 2009 is if a teacher wants a learner with ASD to learn how to wash their hands, the target stimulus is their dirty hands, and the cue might be the teacher saying, wash your hands. So when the learner doesn't respond, if we're using least to most, maybe the next is a gesture. The teacher points to the faucet. While saying, wash your hands. If the learner still doesn't respond, the teacher will again say, wash your hands, and actually take the learner's hand and guide it towards the faucet. And that would be our partial physical guidance. Right. Next, we're going to talk about most to least. So Libby Weiss, Stancroft, and Ahern in 2008 worked with children with autism on the target behavior of building Lego structures. The most to least method that they used went like this. It was hand over hand, partial physical at elbow, and they called that manual guidance. Then they went, I'm going to put PP for partial physical here, at the upper arm. Then they did a light touch or a shadow, meaning a shadow, they just guided like this without actually touching the learner. And then obviously, per usual, our goal is independence. And that was the most to least. This study also looked at the difference between most to least strategy and least to most prompting for this particular skill. And they found that both were successful. However, least to most is overall most efficient in teaching the skill. The authors here suggested that most to least might be chosen over least to most when errors are highly undesirable, because with most to least, we're not giving the chance to the learner to err, whereas least to most you are, and then moving up if needed. All right, we've now gone over what a prompt is, why it's important, strategies for prompting, and some examples. Thanks for listening today, and I hope this helps you become more successful at implementing prompting with your learners. Remember that each learner is unique, and we always have to take that into account with our teachers or with our teaching. My favorite quote from Ivar Lovaas, he says it best: if they can't learn the way we teach the way they learn. And here's my reference page. Have a great day, everyone.